Why did we need to go to Long Beach and shoot that scene? And it was just the location costs and the permit costs and everything are 10 times the amount.
Why did you move to Mexico?
Well, I think it's for a lot of reasons. Really, Mexico is a very warm country. It's a warm place. And personally, before professionally, I moved there to just kind of get away from things and to kind of take a break from the hustle and bustle. I originally moved to Cancun, Mexico, lived there for several years and did a lot of writing when I was there. And then later, I figured I can't really retire at that age. So I got closer to the United States and moved over to Tijuana, Rosarito Beach area. And so at the end of the day, Mexico is now it's my home. I've been there over 20 years. And so it's more comfortable for me. It's easier to live there, less stress, things of that sort. And professionally, it's like a filmmaker's paradise. You can go anywhere, you can shoot anywhere. It's got all the different looks, the mountains, the hills, the trees. I mean, the oceans, the deserts, anything you want to shoot there. And I think it's one of the only places that can, at least on the Western Hemisphere, that can be truly cost effective without the rebates.
So you can still have a quote unquote Hollywood career, whatever that looks like, entertainment career, and live and be an expat, basically?
Yeah, one of the things about where we are, which is Tijuana, just below the San Diego border, is that it's, in theory, the closest international point to Hollywood in the world. That means it's drivable. So we can drive everything and everybody down from Los Angeles without putting them on planes, but we're still, working kind of like a fraction of the LA costs. So it's that closest international point. And when we started the program some years ago, many years ago now, but that's what we were thinking about. We're thinking about how can we kind of not have to do LA restraints, LA rules, but still be close enough to drive. I mean, at the end of the day, you can get from Hollywood to the border in about an hour and 45 minutes if traffic is cooperative. I mean, it takes longer than that to get from like the Valley to Newport Beach a lot of the times. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, you can drive everything in and move everybody on land and don't have to put everybody on planes and do all kinds of shipping and things of that sort.
And what about and this might be more of the American media, but that it's dangerous for Americans?
Well, I'll tell you. That is a good question. The biggest hurdle that we have as a film company in Tijuana, Mexico, and in Mexico generally, is what the perception of Mexico is. You have to convince almost everybody that it's safe. Now, it is safe. We've done several films there. I think this will be our 29th coming up without any incidents. And I mean that, no incidents. But, every day you're bombarded with this kind of negative cartels and border problems and all kinds of issues and, immigrants rushing the border. And it makes it feel super dangerous, but it's really not. And it's really difficult to explain that to people or have people believe it. Because they kind of become entrenched in that belief, They kind of like, I have a friend that this happened to, and I did this, and it's very often it's not true. Very often it's just kind of this kind of tsunami of rumors that are being thrown out there because we are there and we know what's there. We understand the lay of the land. So, but it is something we have to make a lot of assurances to actors and people that are coming down. And we have a lot of security around. We don't always need it. Sometimes it's honestly for the optics of it. But we do have plenty of security. And when people get there, they're just like, why? Where's this danger everybody was talking about? It's just really just very, it's very normal, very simple. and just like anywhere else, really. But you do have to take some precautions. You are in a foreign country, and they don't have the civil infrastructure that we have here. So it's not like they have you can't 2 seconds later, you call the cops, and 2 seconds later they're at your door, or 2 minutes later. It's a little bit, you gotta kind of know where you're going and where to go and where not to go. But generally it's super safe.
Any advice for people in terms of if they are scouting locations or they're actually going to shoot, coming with a sense of respect? I'm sure if any American goes to any foreign country, especially these days, maybe the past 20 years, the perception is going to be different. Ways we can conduct ourselves where we give off an air of respecting someone and their homeland?
Absolutely. What we try to do on all the films is make sure that anybody that's interacting with the public is a Mexican person. It's kind of bad optics to have some American running in the street telling this guy to move over there and, hey, close your doors. They talk to each other, so there is a way to do it. And there's kind of like a protocol that we make sure that we have under all our films. And when you go there, especially when you're getting a location, whatever, you have to be very, very polite, and recognize that they probably don't understand it in the same way that maybe LA locations would understand it. They think, oh, well, it's going to be cool. We're going to film something here. They don't know the rush of people that are going to come in there and how they come in and just do all this crazy stuff, and they shut everything down. And so there's protocols in that. You have to make sure that they understand what's going on. You have to make sure that, and we always make sure that the deals are made, all the scouting deals, all the location deals are made with my Mexican staff. We try not to go in there with this kind of American voice, trying to make a bunch of deals. It's always better that way. It goes smoother, and then if there's a problem, they can kind of talk to each other as countrymen and work it out, rather than kind of being the ugly American jumping in there and saying, hey, this needs to be like this and that needs to be like that in some broken Spanish accent. It's better if they do it. And so I always defer. And that's something you learn over time. I mean, our first films, you just have a regular location scout from the Valley going in there and trying to make deals with people who doesn't speak a word of Spanish. And it goes much better the latter way.
How long were you in Mexico before you decided to start a production company?
Well, I was there maybe, let's call it around 7-8 years, as just personally. And I was kind of just writing and trying to figure out where my place would be in the film business. And so it's about between 7 to 10 years, I think I was there. And the genesis of it, just if that skips the question, I don't know, but if the genesis of it is that there was a company in Baja called Baja Films, run by a guy by the name of Delfino Lopez. He was just a regular guy, but they had this film company, and they did films on Super 16. Remember Super 16? Remember? And it was they were doing full 90-minute films for nothing. And I was thinking in terms of, and I look at it, and I was coming from LA, and you're in LA and you're at coffee shops and everybody's trying to figure out a way to get their film together and how we're going to get financed and everything else. And while we're doing that, these guys are doing a film a month, a film every 2 months on film, 90-minute film. Now, you can't get through one of them. I mean, they're not very good. I mean, as far as the way that they're done, narco cinema, it's actually quite famous. And but they were doing these very interesting 90-minute films. And so I just started to think, what if we just added American storyline, maybe 1 or 2 American actors, guy coming down to save his daughter, guy getting down there, gets drunk, gets caught up with the cartels, things like that. And some of the movies that we all know, movies like Man on Fire, movies like Sicario, movies like some of the parts of Traffic. And I thought, I can go and try to figure out a way to fit into that system in Los Angeles, or I can come down there and work with these guys, bring a couple elements down, and just keep working. And I decided that that would be the best bet. In other words, it may not be as glamorous in the beginning, but we're getting things done. We're proving our worth. We're creating a reel. We're just staying busy. And you realize how difficult it is for people to stay busy. And you realize also then that a lot of actors will come down and work for you. If they're not doing anything, they'll just come down and say, sure, if they like the script. In Mexico, especially Tijuana and those border areas, it's kind of a really super gritty space. And so it's very interesting to see Americans move through that space. Like I said, mentioned before, movies like Man on Fire, Sicario, things like that, where you have kind of interesting border stories about, and not to mention the cartel tropes that are there. Cartels make very, very good villains, cartel leaders. They're intelligent. They're not, they're organized. They're not just crazy people cutting people up. They're usually very, very good villains. And so there's a lot of stories in there. And so we just decided to stop talking about it and start making the movies.
When did you make your first movie in Mexico?
First movie in Mexico was produced and not directed. Did a film called La Línea, or The Line. I wrote it, produced it. It starred Andy Garcia, Ray Liotta, a whole bunch of people, Isai Morales, Armando Sante. And that was in 2007. We did in 2007, it was released in 2009. Very, very interesting experience. Some of the things that we had an idea to do, we didn't do, meaning we were gonna do it really small, and it wasn't. It was pretty big. We set everything up in LA and took it down to Mexico, and it was quite an experience. It was good, but a very, very, very good experience and a good film, in my opinion.
So you had to prove yourself that you could take this crew down there. You said you were the producer, but not the director, and convince people that it was safe and that this would work. Yeah,
and we were super bubbled on that film. This is before I really started to make Mexican films. The first idea you have a lot of times is you just say, okay, hey, I'm gonna, set things up like anybody else would set it up, and get a DP and get a sound person, and then we're gonna travel down to Tijuana and do this film. So we were like in a bubble, and it was an expensive bubble in comparison to what we could have done it for, but it was a good learning experience, and we had a lot of things now that we know we didn't need, and it was an interesting way to film there, but it's not this kind of organic Mexico filming like our subsequent films were. So, it's kind of like if you go anywhere. You go to Romania, you go to Italy, you crew up in the States usually, you get some local crew there, and then you go and you take your major keys and everybody goes down there and everything else like that. So that was called La Línea, The Line, and it was quite a great experience.
And what were some of the things that you realized later that you didn't need?
We realized later that we did not need, we didn't need to, first of all, we didn't need to create a base camp everywhere we went. We shuttled around this huge 17 truck base camp because we just thought that's what we needed. So everywhere we went, we had to get parking lots and blocking streets and have this big caravan of cars and everything else. That's one of them. And second and most important is crew. There's plenty of good crew there, but we, had to take everybody from the States, all the keys, and then the keys said, well, I just don't feel comfortable unless I have my second. And then they said, well, and we have a person that will work, and they're an assistant. And so we didn't quite understand how much all that cost. It just seemed pretty simple. But filming out of the country is very much different than filming in Hollywood or in LA. It's not like you can just give somebody a call time. Hey, call time's in North Hollywood at 7 o'clock and be there. You have to drive them there. they have to have per diem, they've got to have food, they have to have all kinds of coordination of movement, and it's a lot of work. So it's probably double the work to have everybody there to coordinate all the travel and the transportation to set, to and from set, everything else. So we realized we didn't need all those people. We could crew up in Mexico with an incredibly competent and talented Mexican crew, and then not have to have the expense and drama, frankly, of bringing people from the States.
And you also said you learned over time, maybe, or maybe that was the project that taught you that if you had people from Mexico, that it would go smoother with the locals, with whatever law enforcement was around, with whoever was enforcing this film shoot.
Absolutely, absolutely. It would have gone smoother and less expensive, right? And we learned that. Those are lessons you learn. And it was the first film, and so we were just kind of figuring it out, taking a lot of advice. People are saying, "Hey, you need to do this, you need to do that," and he hires somebody, and then he calls his friends and people he knows, and and then everybody crews up like that. Where it was a full union show, and as you know, when you're a union show, they don't work for the producers; they work for their department head, and they work for the payroll company. So they're the employer of record. So sometimes they do what you say, sometimes they don't. And so, but we kept it together, all together, and it was a good learning experience. And if you have enough money, it's fine. You can bring people anywhere. James Bond movies and X-Men, they film all over the world, and they bring this whole, big machine with them that's like a city, and they have to. But if you have that kind of money, that's what you do with it, I guess. And then you create your own little bubble of your comfort wherever you go. So, but most people don't have that. Not an indie film have that kind of money, and so that money is usually not the best money spent, if I'm honest.
And so was it after your first film as the producer that you realized, I don't need to go back to LA, or you had already made that decision?
I mean, go back to LA for crew?
A crew is one thing, or to piece together the project and pitch the idea maybe, but in terms of living full-time?
No, I realized, that, we did a little piece of the movie in LA, the first movie, La Línea, The Line. And the cost of that 1 week was astronomical in relation to what it was the rest of the 4 weeks. It's astronomical. And so you realize, why didn't we just do the whole film in Mexico? Why did we need to go to Long Beach and shoot that scene? And it was just the location costs and the permit costs and everything are 10 times the amount. So like I said, the learning moment, the teachable moment in that would be to have trusted the system and just take everything there and do most of the things there, and put most of the stuff on the screen, as opposed to putting so much money into creating a bubble that makes everybody, quote, comfortable.